Ebzavo high GC News, Bima Obibia Aquaba. Hadia latest and hot news. Amqua Eramede Bremo. Anuti someone subscribe to channel idea, Bomodia say obe subscribe. The obe say obe click a year subscribe button. Now wabele a year notification. We understand video for Frobia be upload when the first person I want sa ebeka a year video. Afei we are now like video give us a thumbs up na afei share ma ofoforo so na wenye bi hwe na wo hu ensemo a ekoso e wo Ghana memo hanom afei yentie eye sa report ya ababeto ya yentie eye sansemi yentie.
Now this guy was on camera and he didn't collapse all of a sudden. The collapse started. I saw it. It took minutes before he hit the ground. Started shaking, started drifting to the left and to the right and so on before he eventually sank to the ground. Now, for those of us who were watching the address on camera or on television, we saw it happening. Now, my question is, didn't anybody else see this happening? Because if the president is speaking in such a forum, attention ought to be on him. Everything around him ought to be noticed and so on. How come that this guy was allowed to go through those processes and eventually collapse to the ground? Somebody must have failed in his duty. One of the things that shocked me a great deal was the president's claim that at the time he took office, the energy sector had an accumulated debt of $2.5 billion at the time he took office. And that the projection was that if the trend continues, things will get worse in 14 years and so on. And that by the miracle that he had performed and so on, at the end of his tenure, the energy sector debt was still at $2.5 billion and that this was an achievement. My goodness, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Achievement? The overwhelming endorsement of President Mahama and so on is a huge statement. President John Dramani Mahama cannot afford to fail. He cannot. Even if he wants to fail, he must not be allowed to fail, because the consequences will be for all of us. The Mahama administration has to succeed. By any means possible and legitimate, it has to succeed. Because if it doesn't succeed, the agenda for resetting will kick in. And that agenda for resetting would not necessarily follow these bourgeois democratic lines. Now, I'm hoping that one day we would have a concept of development which clearly implies the mobilization of our people to solve their own problem using their own resources. That, as far as I'm concerned, would be true development. So in terms of strategy, the two strategies look alike. The two strategies actually do not involve the mass mobilization of our people to resolve their own concrete problems of access to education, of improved health care, of better dietary conditions, and so on. And I hope that at some point this will change. Now, it's important to note that the State of the Nation address, as we saw yesterday, was so very full of drama. In fact, the dramatics dominated this address. And the first drama really has to do with the ADC of the president collapsing behind him. And it raises a number of important questions. First of all, it's important to find out what has happened to him. If he fell ill, has he recovered? And it's important to encourage his family and friends and so on, to take very good care of him, he collapsed in the performance of his duty as an employee of the state. And I think that we should show a lot of sympathy for this gentleman who collapsed behind the president. Now, one of the questions which arises immediately is, his collapse, was it due to a known health condition? And if it was due to a known health condition, how come that he continued to function as an aide to the president and was deployed to stand behind the president, for this address? You are standing behind the president. It's not just a show. It has so many implications. The role assigned to him also involved the protection of the president in case of an emergency. And if he had a known health condition, he could not have played that role, and his choice must be problematic, you understand? Now, if it was not a known health condition, is it that the health condition existed, but because of lack of examination, it didn't come up? And if that is the case, then there's another serious problem that we need to look at, and it's a security, problem. Now, this guy was on camera, and he didn't collapse all of a sudden. The collapse started. I saw it. It took minutes before he hit the ground. Started shaking, started drifting to the left and to the right and so on, before he eventually sank to the ground. Now, for those of us who were watching the address on camera or on television, we saw it happening. Now, my question is, didn't anybody else see this happening? Because if the president is speaking in such a forum, attention ought to be on him. Everything around him ought to be noticed and so on. How come that this guy was allowed to go through those processes and eventually collapse to the ground? Somebody must have failed in his duty, and I think it's an important issue, you understand. The other thing that hit me, was the president's own reaction. It was so very surprising, because I expect that there ought to be a certain bond between the president and his aide-de-camp. In fact, his very life depends on his aide-de-camp. And I was surprised that when this gentleman fell to the ground, the president did not appear to care. He didn't appear to care at all. He didn't go to his aid. I mean, people beyond the president had to rush to assist this gentleman. And that is a huge betrayal of an attitude which is most surprising. Because even people we don't know, if they collapse in public, our reaction is different. Now, there's an ADC to the president who collapses to the ground, and the president does not lift a finger to help him. So I'm standing there, I'm watching television, and I'm saying, what is this? Isn't the president's general attitude to people around him? And indeed, if it is general attitude to people around him, then indeed, it's a huge statement. Then indeed, we must not be surprised at the performance of his administration. So this collapse of his ADC has become, emblematic, and so on. For many people, they may see it as a very small thing and so on, but for me, it's not small. It betrays character. It shows us so many things about the president and his attitude to the people he works with and the people he's supposed to be working for. So for me, that was important. The show of the day, really, the show of the day, was the statement made by the deputy minority leader. That was the major statement of the day. And it gained more attention than the president's State of the Nation address, even though it lasted for only 3.5 minutes. I mean, the craftsmanship was excellent. You understand? The delivery was problematic. I mean, it was delivered in halting English. And please excuse me, I'm just being honest about it. The English was halting, you know. It was not about the diction and so on, but you saw a certain lack of flow and so on. But in spite of that, it was a master speech. It had some mastery around it because it captured the moment and defined the State of the Nation address within 3.5 minutes, to the admiration of even the outgoing president himself. And that was a really master speech. The State of the Nation address was supposed to give us an indication of what has happened to this state within the last 4 years. Some say 8 years, but I believe that essentially it's about the last 4 years, what has happened and what has not happened, and whether the government has done well or has not done well. The minority leader summed it all up and said the verdict of the people is already out there, and the verdict of the people is the results of the election. You can't go to an election and lose so massively and claim to have done so very well unless you are arrogant and disrespect the verdict of the people. Clear? You understand? The power presidents and governments exercise is power which belongs to the people. And ultimately, it is only the people who can make a determination as to whether governments have done well or have not done well. And that determination is made by exercising their votes. Their vote is the verdict. And the people of Ghana, their vote, their verdict simply was that this government has done so abysmally over the last 4 years. So very abysmally. I mean, count the number of seats that the New Patriotic Party has lost. And even the seats that it won, the margins were reduced. I mean, this is an incredible defeat. It's never happened in the so-called Fourth Republic. And I say the so-called Fourth Republic advisedly, because the Republican status we achieved in 1960 has never changed. Ghana has only been one republic. There hasn't been any different republic. The Republican status of Ghana, which was attained in 1960, has never changed. So it's only one republic. But for the sake of those who like to dramatize, those who like to do all kinds of things, so let us accept that we are in a Fourth Republic. And for this Fourth Republic, no party, no government has suffered the kind of defeat that the New Patriotic Party suffered in this election. Of course, if you compare it to 1951, I mean, the 1951 defeat was certainly more massive than this one. I mean, the CPP and Kwame Nkrumah simply just swept the polls and reduced its opposition to just rubble, complete rubble. That was the most massive defeat that the ancestors of the New Patriotic Party suffered. But this is the second one. I mean, huge, such a huge defeat, and it's a clear verdict. Now, when I saw the president standing before Parliament, and obviously without any sense of remorse or regret, and telling us how so well his government has done and so on, I was wondering whether he really understood the results of the elections, whether the results of the elections had made any impact on him. Because if he were aware of the weight of the election outcome, he could not have been standing in front of us claiming to have done so very well. Because the verdict is clear. and the verdict is superior to his opinions about himself and so on. He was not humbled by this defeat, and that is a worry, for me. Now, we're supposed to be starting this discussion with the economy, and I intend to do just that. Now, here is the outgoing president standing in front of all of us and telling us about how much we have in our foreign reserves. And I'm wondering, so why did we go to the IMF to borrow 3 billion? If we have so much money to our credit, why did we have to go to the IMF, cap in hand, on our knees, crawling, to get $3 billion? I mean, unbelievable, incredible, because the two don't jive. We went to the IMF simply because we were broke. We couldn't meet our financial obligations. So that reserve is useless. The talk about that reserve, whether it exists or not, is useless. It is not enough to help us out of our crisis, and that is why we went to the IMF. We couldn't have gone to the IMF if we had so much riches, if we had so much in reserve, and so on. We could not have gone to the IMF. It wouldn't have made sense to go to the IMF. So simply going to the IMF to beg for a relief of $3 billion shows clearly that the president did not know what he was talking about. Clear. You don't need to do any other analysis and so on. Clearly, the president was lost. He did not understand what he was talking, about. Now, in discussing the economy, the president threw many figures at us. Many figures at us. And I've always said that any government which looks at statistical averages and bases its success and failure on statistical averages is lost. Because there's a way in which these statistical averages tell us nothing about the state of our people. Nothing. You see, the gross domestic product, what does it really mean in real terms? It's an aggregation. You understand? It's an aggregation. And if you strip it down, you may find that what goes into the determination of the gross domestic product may simply be foreign-owned interest and not Ghanaian. It all adds up. Per capita income. When they say that the per capita income has risen, what does it really mean? Because it's possible that only 2% of the population will get such a massive increase in incomes that it will distort the reality. When 98% have had a reduction in their incomes, 2% can get such massive increases in income that a certain figure will be thrown at us. So these statistical averages really do not help us much in determining where our people are with regards to the state of the national economy and so on. So I agree with Honorable Member of Parliament for Anan's Sowutuom. I think he has a few days more to be Honorable Member of Parliament. Please accept my condolence. I really am sad about how you were handed out of office, simply by being principled. So you have my sympathies, you have my condolences. But you see, the point I'm making, and which is the point that you make very, very well, and is a principle which we might describe as the Kufo principle. And the Kufo principle is that in talking about the economy and so on, forget GDP, forget per capita income, forget gross national income and so on, and simply put your hand in your pocket. You understand? When you put your hand in your pocket, you can determine the state of the economy in your own pocket. When you go to the market, and one piece of okra is selling for 10 cedis, you know the state of the economy. If you're a taxi driver, and you can't meet your daily sales and have to go to Shylock to borrow money to meet your daily sales, you know the state of the economy. If you're a pensioner who provided adequately for your pension period, for your health care and so on, and today you are sick and you cannot afford your medicines because of a haircut imposed by government, you know the state of the economy. You understand? If you saved in any of the Ghanaian banks, which had collapsed, and your money is lost and so on, you know the state of the economy. So the people know the state of the economy, they understand the state of the economy very, very clearly, perhaps better than people in government and so on. Now, one of the things that shocked me a great deal was the president's claim that at the time he took office, the energy sector had an accumulated debt of $2.5 billion at the time he took office. And that the projection was that if the trend continues, things will get worse in 14 years and so on. And that by the miracle that he had performed and so on, at the end of his tenure, the energy sector debt was still at $2.5 billion and that this was an achievement. My goodness, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Achievement? The debt, according to him, he says that the debt was $2.5 billion, has not reduced by 1 cent. Master, has not been reduced by 1 cent. And for him, it was an achievement. My goodness, I couldn't believe it. But that's his sense of achievement. Keeping things as they are, sense of achievement. So if we were to retrogress, what would it be like? Unbelievable. But be that as it may, he then comes up and tells us that, look, I'm leaving office when the lights are on. When I came into office, the lights were off. But is that true? All of us know that that is not true. He came into office at the time when the lights were on. And he's actually leaving office at the time when the lights are flicking. Dumso is back with us. It may not be on the same scale as happened some time ago, but it is with us. In fact, one of the independent power producers had to stop production because of the state of indebtedness to the independent power producers. And given the fact that the independent power producers, not the whole power sector, just the independent power producers are owed $2.5 billion. If the incoming administration does not do some magic, and I don't know what magic they are going to do, to deal with this debt, my goodness, we are in it. We are going to get a major power crisis, which will not be the results of the inefficiency of the incoming administration. It will be a legacy of inefficiency from the current administration. And I think that we have to understand that very clearly. It is likely that we will get into very serious doomso very soon, likely. The only reason why we are not there yet is that this administration is doing everything possible to keep the lights on somehow, so that they can shift the blame to the next administration. That's the only reason. So I would not be surprised if in the months ahead of us, we enter into doomso. Indeed, in the Akufo administration, we had a power crisis. And And many people blame the Akufo administration, and justly blame the Akufo administration, for the power crisis. Of course, I was angry at the time because we're not being given a scientific solution to the problem. We're asking these charlatans in Kasok and so on to go and stand on the Volta River and pray to God to make rain fall into the river and so on. It was so annoying. We went and bought what Kweku Annan described as toy generators and so on. So the approach was so very annoying. But the crisis had not been caused by the Akufo government, okay? Because from 1966, we have stopped the expansion of the power sector. Indeed, it was only Agyapong who came and added the Pong hydroelectric project. The Bui Dam, for which engineers were on site by 1966, was stopped. The mini hydro project, which was envisioned by Nkrumah, was stopped, and so on. So there was a huge gap, and so on. And Akufo became a victim of a very bad history of neglect of the energy sector, And I remember those days, Nana Asante Bediatuo, who today is the executive secretary to the president, his father was the chairman of the Energy Commission. And indeed, I was invited to interview his father by Nana Asante Bediatuo, to throw more light on why we had this energy crisis. And his father made it very clear that it was because of the bad policies of the National Liberation Council and the Progress Party government which brought us here. You understand? Why? When they assumed power, they brought some expert from the UK who came and told us that there was no need to expand energy generation because we had enough from the Akosombo project. And that is why we stopped the nuclear power generation project, which was in the 7-year development plan. And that is why we stopped the mini hydro project, which was in the 7-year development plan. That is why we stopped pursuing green energy and so on. And the cumulative effect of all this neglect brought us to the crisis that the Akufo administration faced. It is possible that the Mahama administration is going to face a new crisis in the power sector. But that would not be the fault of the Mahama administration. It will be the cumulative effect of past neglect. It will be the cumulative effect of the piling of debt in the energy sector. But you see, let me make this point very clear. And this morning I was having a chat with my brother here about the future of this country. And both of us agree that a failure of the Mahama administration will have very dire consequences for the democratic experiment. If the Mahama administration is not able to deliver, it is democracy, the bourgeois limited democracy we have, which will be in danger. Because after Mahama, how can we convince the people of Ghana that this democracy works? 1992, they went to the polling stations, they voted in a government, they suffered all kinds of things to get an election going. What did the people of this country get out of that election? 1996, we repeated the same thing. What did we get out of it? And so on and so on and so on, so many elections with very little to show. You understand? Now, if you look at the outcome of this last election, the overwhelming endorsement of President Mahama and so on, it's a huge statement. President John Dramani Mahama cannot afford to fail. He cannot. Even if he wants to fail, he must not be allowed to fail, because the consequences will be for all of us. The Mahama administration has to succeed by any means possible and legitimate. It has to succeed. Because if it doesn't succeed, the agenda for resetting will kick in. And that agenda for resetting would not necessarily follow these bourgeois democratic lines. We may have a revolution on our hands, we may have a coup d'etat on our hands. The options are scary. And that is why it is important for the Mahama administration to succeed. And that is why, even though the energy crisis will not be the creation of the Mahama administration, the Mahama administration has to find every way and any way to resolve it so that it doesn't become a crisis.
Yo, it is for winning and summer abeto. Yepono so make out say so we don't subscribe to channel idea but more than say over subscribe. Now feel well like video give us a thumbs up and share my offer for so now when you be here since hadia latest and hot news and kwa era me de bravo. Also betimi otchere wadwen afaye and some way nyina ho ewo comment box ni mu. Mobati minkabi in my next video.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.